according, I believe it's ESPN, their problem with Detroit Pistons is not the roster. Detroit Lions, excuse me, it's not the roster. It is the coaching staff. So they want to know how Drew Petzing and Mike Kafka offense is going to do with the Detroit Lions. And at the end of the day, we're going to talk about the Lions offense again, about Myra. I don't know what order you're going to see it. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't feel like John Morton was horrible last year. I just think it was just to the point where they had problems. They had problems, bro. However you look at it, they had problems offensively. You know, injuries across the offensive line. You know, and to be honest, John Morton, everybody love to talk numbers. John Morton put up numbers, but then when people really want to, you know, they really want to dive into the statistics, now they, you know, when, you know, how can I say this? When it don't look like they want it to look, then, you know, situational football matters or situations matter. You know, oh, you know, and I was saying the way they were scoring, they had a lot of explosive plays, and that's what John Morton preached last year. If you listen to him when he first got hired, that's the first thing that raised the red flag to me, was his addiction to explosive plays. And then somebody, you know, pointed me to the right direction. And his issue with the Jets was they were saying that he liked to throw the ball too much, like they play in a dome. But overall, the physical identity of the football team was it wasn't the same. Even with Dan calling the plays, John. And this is where you hear, you know, somebody had them taking a guard, I think, from Penn State. You had them, you know, the Proctor kid, or, you know, you have these different guys, you know, that they need. Yeah, it's imperative that they get back to nasty football more so than finding an athletic linebacker and an athletic edge. That's their identity, is their physicality. And, you know, you had Graham Glasgow getting blasted into the quarterback's lap, and he couldn't get the penetration up that line, of course. And now you have a guy in Cade Mays who's not the best center at the run of attack. So guess what? When you got somebody who may not be strong suited in a particular area, what do? You surround them with guys who support who are strong. You know, believe it or not, every president, dictator, or president, CEO, they got people that they delegate to around them. They might have a finance background. They might be the inventor, you know, or they might, you know, whatever. They might be good at research, or, you know, whatever. But eventually, you know, it may be an expertise. There might be something that's not in their expertise in the background. So they got to delegate it to somebody else. But I think, honestly, to really, you know, really put a stamp of approval on this Lions offensive line, they need a dog at tackle. Whether that's moving Sewell to left and getting the dog there. But the thing about it is, you want your tackles to be interchangeable. You know, and that's not always the truth, but the Lions can do something like that. If the Lions can find a really good left tackle that's athletic and who can run block and pass block, and, you know, that's what you want. So now you got two elite tackles that can do great things. You know, your guards, you got a lot of help in your guards with Miles Frazier, and Tate Ratledge, Mahogany. You know, you can still get a guard later in the draft, you know. So it's interesting, but, you know, also when we talk about supporting the offensive line, you know, your leader has to have the identity of a dog mentality. You know, Rick Ross had a song, I think it was on that 50 Cent disc, Mafia Music. He said you use a fork while your dog uses paws, or you eat out the bowl. Something like that. They got to have a, you know, eat out the bowl mentality with no forks, spoons, sporks, knives, straight up paws, all dog. And that mentality was missing when John Morton, and, you know, Dan Campbell didn't have that identity neither. So with Drew Petzing, if he gonna bring a hard-nosed identity, I love it. Where we're gonna move mountains, and regardless, that's what we're gonna do. So, you know, Mike Kafka will have an imprint on there, and we're gonna see how they work together. But ultimately, it's Drew Petzing's ass on the line. And also it's Drew Pessing's ability to, be one and done here and have success. But ultimately, it's a concern there because you didn't see it work with John Morton. But when you heard John Morton speak, everything he preached, he did that shit. He did it. They didn't put long, sustainable drives together. They put up points in bunches. It was nice to see, but it wasn't those sustained drives. So the tongue is a very powerful weapon. One of the most purest forms of a hip hop album, only rivaled by Illmatic, was Liquid Sword. And a liquid sword is your tongue. So how Petzing is really speaking about versatility and customizing the offense to the personnel they have, it sounds a lot better. And what's so funny, it's people will say, "Ooh, I didn't really like Calvin Shepherd." I mean, what the fuck did y'all want him to do? Before I get that comment in the comment section, what did y'all really want from Calvin Shepherd? Aiden Hutchinson and a bunch of other people that wasn't really where they should have been at. I thought he did a great job. I just really don't understand what did y'all want him to do? Both safeties out, or in and out. Kirby was, and then Branch went out. Terrion went out, and it's Rackstraw went out. What did y'all really want? I never really understood what was he supposed to do. I never. DJ Reed went down. Reader wasn't the same. Wasn't the same player. Liam McNeil, what did y'all really want him to? Some type of magic pill? It doesn't work that way. I feel like he had a great first year. It's just, personnel was what it was. I just don't understand. Y'all be expecting people to make, healthy food, but all you got is fucking pig intestines and grease and chickens and come on, man. But it's a question to be had, bro. As far as about the offense, is how it was gonna look. How it's gonna look. Will it work? Because last year, yeah, they were successful, but it wasn't what they wanted and what they needed. So I think it's a fair question, but we'll see. But also, we at the point where, it's not anywhere near close to being a complete offense. You got the draft, you got undrafted rookies, you still got veterans that can get traded or cut. So they're a long way from a finished product, to be honest with you. But I think they understand the assignment is they can't play with the offensive line. They know that. So they can play with defensive end, they can play with the corners a little, can't play with the offensive line. So, but hey, thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the link in the description. You can follow me on X, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, Instagram, Spotify, Anchor, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. I appreciate the love, support. Let me know what your girls and guys think in the comment section. Peace.